So there you are, minding your own business in your man chair on a lazy Sunday afternoon when your kid comes up to you with a couple scrap pieces of paper and says, "Dad, can you please build me a paper airplane?" Now, you think back to your childhood and how awesome it was to build a paper airplane and compete against your friends on how far it would go. But you don't remember how to build one. Now, when you tell your child that you do not know how to build a paper airplane, the instant judgment on his face is going to about how crappy of a parent you are is going to send you to the room crying. But that's not going to happen, is it? So I'm here to tell you about three main airfoil groups when you're dealing with paper airplanes. The first is your floater, and its long, elegant glide through the air. Your second is your dart, with your super thin, super fast, and super aerodynamic airplane. Third is your trickster. Now the trickster is much more advanced, but we'll get to that later. Why a floater, you ask? Well, a floater is very easy to build. How easy, you ask? Well, it takes less than 30 seconds and just a couple folds, and you'll be having an airplane in no time. Just a couple folds later, you'll be wowing your kids' eyes all day long. Now that we've talked about the beginner airplane, let's move on a little bit more intermediate, the dart. The dart is super fast, super aerodynamic, and shoots through the air. But now, being fast, aerodynamic, and shooting through the air, you must make sure that the fly zone is clear, or else a kid could actually be impaled. This is more of an intermediate style of build because everything needs to be uniform. There's more folds than the beginner model, and it's very thin. Well, remember, being super fast, super thin, and super sharp, what do you got to do? Clear the fly zone for any children, or else they'll be impaled. Now that we've talked about the beginner stages and the intermediate stages, we'll move on to more what I call the expert stages, and that's your trickster. The trickster does flips, it does loops, and it'll wow your children's eyes all day long. It'll wow them so much, in fact, it'll send their imagination so far out to outer space, you're going to make sure parents are around to bring it back down. Parental guidance only with the tricksters. The trickster is a very unique airplane fold that when you throw it, it does loops and flips, and you'll be wowing your kids' eyes all day long. So, now that I've told you about the three main airplane groups that you fold to not be a crappy parent, let's take a look back at what we learned today. We talked about the floater and its long, smooth, elegant glide. We've talked about the dart and how fast and sharp and unique it is. And once again, you got to clear that way, right? Or else you'll impale children, and you don't want to do that. Third is your trickster. Now, remember the trickster, how cool it was and sending kids' imaginations far up in space? Well, make sure they stay back down grounded because there's more paper airplanes to be building, So, now that we've talked about those, are you going to be one of those parents that sits on their man chair, eating Cheetos, drinking beer, and not being a good parent? No. You're going to build paper airplanes with your kid and be the best parent in the world.